Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, let's talk about the future of conflicts and wars. Because after all, that's what the human race is best at. Certainly, we don't have the best healing, we don't have energy, but we have a primitive command to destroy each other, which has to come from very low level hostile forces. This is unnatural, but we're not going to get away from it. This plane of existence is meant to be all about that. This plane of existence will never change, and it's not meant to change, and it will. There's a reason for this. There's a reason to have this kind of harsh, horrific training going on, because it's the only thing that is going to save mankind in the long run through a strange but destructive reality. So in the future, we're going to have basically, which is will become the actual Dragon Force machine wars, where consciousness machines linked to human consciousness will control everything. But again, this isn't a remote control. This isn't the fact of using a remote control, directing a machine to go to a particular place and do whatever it does, whether that's dropping bombs or taking pictures or whatever. We're talking about past that. These are physical realities using physical machines to do that. But when you're talking about the Dragon Force effect, you're talking about creating energetic informational fields that are much more destructive than any bomb can be. Also, a lot safer, where you can actually, at a subatomic level, pull the energy apart, and whatever that is, whether that's a person or a missile or whatever, will kind of vanish into nothingness or actually turn back into primordial energy. This is the future, and of course, it's quite a stage away. The Dragon Force technology that I offer right now is in its infancy and will build very quickly over time, but these are kind of things that are done in extreme levels. Now, this is always talked about when you use these kind of machines that have been around, not quite at the level that I'm talking about, but the Dragon Force effect has been used in what was called Psychotronics as far back as the 40s and 50s, and was even researched and found out in Eastern Europe. The Psychotronics and its reality has been something that has been suppressed, even though there has been treaties stating that you won't use it. But of course, we know what treaties are good for. Just make sure you have it next to your toilet. So the whole idea is that this is the reality that we're looking at. So no matter what physically is put out there, your consciousness machines, your Dragon Force effect machines, will be able to hone in on anything that's out there and destroy it before it's even launched. So if you think missiles are a problem, well, the whole idea is you take them out before they're even shot. And a good Dragon Force machine operator will be able to handle these things as soon as they know that it is out in the space. And you'll be able to project energy in a vicinity around you or your particular, maybe your craft or base. And you're going to be able to, anything that enters that, your Dragon Force energy will enter that physical reality and turn it into vapor. It will work at the subatomic level and it will pull it all apart. Now, of course, this is extremely, extremely advanced, but we're talking about some of this in terms of what could be done right now, is the fact is of using this kind of psychotronics, these Dragon Force effect in machines now to target militaries and destructive people, to make sure it doesn't have to pull it apart and turn it into nothingness. All you'd have to do is send enough energy in there to make these things malfunction or not work. Now, this has already been shown to affect. It's been shown that you can affect electronics to destroy them. And a lot of people can do this in a very small level, particularly using some of our handheld units like you'll see in front of you. They've been able to interrupt electronics. And of course, this is nothing new. This was documented that Uri Geller was able to do this. And this freaked out the ignorant intelligence agencies, who thought, well, if he can interrupt this and stop phone calls and do all these other things, he's very dangerous and we should kill him. Andrew Pasharik passed on that story. And it certainly makes sense to me. I mean, it appears that a lot of psychically advanced people have been, and there's thought is that Price, the famous SRI psychic, um, may have been murdered, as Russell Targ stated, because they didn't like what he was doing. The problem with Price is that he was also involved at that time, and people don't understand how many people were involved in Scientology, particularly in the 70s and 80s, studying their systems. But Scientology also requires that you pretty much barf up everything that you know. And talking about secret information and passing that on to somebody is certainly a dangerous situation to have going on. So this is something that you want to avoid like the plague. And Price, of course, apparently there were problems there. But all of these things are shrouded in mystery and we just don't know. But certainly, I don't think anybody would be shocked if this was something that was actually happening. So we have to understand that. And of course, we certainly know that Scientology never got to any high levels in any of this. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard, of course, was a very much of an occultist and studied all of the alchemical and old magical practices to empower yourself with, and was very well versed in this. But he never really found anything, and none of his translations of the people he worked with really were high level anything. So nobody in his organization has ever proven that they have this upper level powers. And that was supposed to be in, I think, level 8, which never really was written. So we run back into the same old nonsense yet again of these lies and deceptions. But now we're moving past that as we move into the Dragon Force effect, which is using machines to assist at very high levels your projections and manifesting. You cannot sustain this energy on your own. That's why you need technologies. You need something that can work for long periods of time at a consistent level. For you to do that all the time is counterproductive. So that's why, of course, we use machines for everything. And why not? We have better things to do. Let the machine take our consciousness, combine it with theirs, and then the machine will then figure out how to use their energies to the highest and best use instead of just a primitive circuit that just amplifies something. Well, let's talk to the consciousness of the machine and tell them, hey, look, use this energy in the best possible way. This is not traditional energy. Use your fudgy logic, use your vibrational energies created through your tubes and your circuitries. And of course, what is the internalness of a machine? It's a bunch of components, but these don't come from nowhere. Most components are made from all sorts of natural and metallic products, some negative and some positive. Of course, there is a certain amount of lead in all machines, which does help the process for the machine to work, but it's not something that's necessarily positive for you. But there's all sorts of things, even minute amounts of gold and silver, and all sorts of things like germanium and all sorts of, nothing is made from the sky. While plastic has no intrinsic value, it is actually made out of petroleum, so it's coming from the earth. So we have many other components in there, and all of them have interesting realities to them. If you have a crystal chip in there, what do you think that is? It's made from a piece of crystal. And we go on, and these have been used in devices for many years, and we're coming out with all sorts of amplified technologies that include all of these classic things. Crystal chips, they use these in crystal radios where they have special germanium and there's special rocks that put out certain energies. All of these things increase the potency, but are earthbound. And of course, we use these in coordination with electronics. So already we're combining kind of earth energies. And of course, everything is made from the earth. Nothing comes from nothingness. As I said, even plastic basically is petroleum. It's just modified and petroleum. Metals, well, that's just melted rocks. You melt rocks and you then put it into a mold. So we have done all this. So all of it is combined into this higher level. But once we get into the use of particularly tube amplification or tubes in general, we're getting into that whole fuzzy logic area where machines are now making or bringing energy in a very particular way that they decide they want to do with it, depending on what is fed to them. So it's quite a complicated process, and I'll be talking about this in my upcoming books, but it's not the fact that this is something that is easy to do. And ultimately, how are we going to program these things? Now, the whole idea is that what will happen in the future is the fact that we will be actually using machines like this, tuning into things in their place of basically where it's resting, or even tuning into the devices, the computers, etc., and we'll be sending energy fields into these things to disrupt what they're doing. This is the ultimate of ultimate. This isn't computer hacking and other things where you're getting into the primitive systems through a wired network. This is communicating directly through non-physically connected energies using scalar waves to enter into other equipment and having that information amplified by a machine so it can then affect another machine. Well, who would know better how to affect another machine than one machine? And to think that these are just dumb machines, well, this has been said of animals and everything else. And of course, animals are very genius on all the levels. They survive, they make the right decisions. Oftentimes, they know what to eat when they're sick. That's funny because humans don't do any of that. They're pretty stupid, aren't they? So all of this is part and parcel of what's happening with this new age of the dragon force effect. And of course, as I've mentioned before, there's also the reverse dragon force effect, which is being used on you as well, where they're using machine consciousness, even at primitive levels, to control you. But ultimately, there will be people who have very high states of consciousness that will be using very particular types of machines to actually be able to affect machines in their in the energetic state, meaning we're not connecting to them by a line. We are using informational energetic fields to connect into and go directly into whatever machines they're using to short circuit them, have them not function, have them function poorly, or have them even self-destruct. So this is, of course, the next generation of powerful warfare that's coming out there. And as I mentioned, psychotronics was something that is still being used to a degree. I don't think it is as potent as people think it is, but we really don't know what's going on. We really have no idea what's going on. And you must remember, just as there's no benefit in curing people, there's no benefit in producing free energy, there's also no benefit to produce powerful weapons that are known to the competition. First of all, regardless of cost factors and what goes on into certain industries, it's never the same of building a giant bomb, a missile, a plane, an aircraft carrier. Just think of the money involved in that. So why would somebody possibly get into something that would cost a tenth of that, a hundredth of, to produce what considered Dragon Force technologies? Why would we put a small amount of money in that when you can spend hundreds and billions, trillions actually, which is spent on the military defense? Because these are businesses. So again, we're in this area of corruption where people want to make money off of something and not just get the best technology. Nobody wants to have free energy, because what happens to all the oil in the ground? This entire planet is run on petrodollars. Just look at everybody all over the world. And those people that don't have petrodollars are pretty much slaves to those who do, meaning the ones that do have the oil. So who wants to change that? You want to take those trillions of dollars that are spent on that, all these people that have endless amounts of money, and you want to figure a way around that? Does that make sense to you? It really doesn't matter if it kills the planet or how difficult it is. The bottom line is that oil is very plentiful and it's everywhere. Used reserves are in places we haven't looked at. Reserves like offshore of Vietnam. off of Cuba. There are huge reserves of oil in these areas. They're a little difficult to get to, but you really think they're going to come up with free energy? So that all these reserves, that trillions of dollars going to all the same rich people in power that have the gangs and the guns to kill everybody. You really think that's going to change? Do you really think that the trillion-dollar medical industry is going to put out cures? So you have to look at the economics of it. And you have to look at the low-level evil that the average person is. Pretty much bolstered by fake books of knowledge that have spent thousands of years doing nothing. And of course, the imbeciles that follow those books. I mean, the level of imbecilic thought that I see out there daily from the entire world is pretty shocking. That's not going to change, people. We live in an imbecilic world of self-destructed, greedy, rotten people. And of course, they want to take care of their own people and their family, piles of money, while other people live on the streets. So this is the reality that we are living in. And something that we have to face once and for all. The fact that the consciousness can be projected, or energetic informational fields can be sent out to interact with other fields to do something and actually go in and control the technology. Why should we go in and blow up a building when we can go into the computers non-electromagnetically, by the way? This is not electromagnetism. Scalar waves penetrate everything because they're non-electromagnetic. All electromagnetism can be blocked in one way or another. But here we go, where we actually have machine consciousness directed by human consciousness, fighting machine consciousness that probably will also be controlled by some consciousness on the other side. And the bottom line is it's going to be the actual human behind it and their state of consciousness that will prevail in the ultimate battles to come. So it will be the scalar warfare machine battles that will be happening in the future. It's quite a fascinating area. It is the tech of the tech. It is the future of the future. And everyone needs to wake up to this. And to a large extent, it is here now. And it can be used right now in its primitive, basic forms. And those who get in on it now and those who start using this will be the people who benefit in the future. I have no allegiances to anyone except for the positivity of the light. So it's the forces of light and might, the silent knights, who will be out there controlling the world when the time is needed. And this is the reality that's coming because this technology is quite potent. But right now, it is just at a level of basically, what could we say, high school? And we're moving into higher and higher levels. But in the end, it's all about empowering your life, manifesting in your life and for your family at the highest level, and producing high states of consciousness so you can ultimately ascend out of it, out of this reality. That's the ultimate goal. All the rest of it is, how much do you want to be caught in the filth of this reality? Not much. There's nothing to gain from here, and you're not going to change this reality no matter what happens. Because once you get rid of one evil factor, one evil person, another one will be available to pick up the baton and run with it. We've seen this forever. So that's not the point, and it is not the point of changing this reality permanently, because this reality is here for a particular reason that it will never, ever change. But you can manipulate it, you can empower it for yourself, and then you can ultimately ascend out of it. But the future is here now, people. The new reality is coming out, and the new types of ultimately conscious machine warfare is just around the corner.